songs. I live in a weird world. Hey kids, welcome back to Worth the Spin. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Beatles again. And my co-host is back, Kelly.
Hi.
And I'm just Jack. So it's not just Jack, it's Jack and Kelly today. So I can't say just Jack. So anyway, welcome back to Worth the Spin. So we're going to pick up where we left off on looking over the Beatles music and any odd little musical things or whatever. Yeah. I think it's going to be a little bit different this time because Kelly asked me to I forget exactly how you phrase it, have a little more input on the music and stuff, and the words get a little more out there, and it's not just a love me do stuff no more. We've really elevated it now.
Yeah.
So at this point in the Beatles' career, so we're up to 1966. Yeah. So at this point, the Beatles have gotten enough fame and enough recognition that their label has said you can have a little more freedom. Their producers like these guys, give them a little more freedom to see what they can do. And the Beatles come up with all these other ideals. George got interested in the Western thing and this sitar and these other musical instruments. And everybody, at this point, everybody's like pretty much married and got families and doing their own thing. So life's different. It's not just four bachelor guys running around singing songs. So things are a lot different for the Beatles now. So more ideals and have come into their music, and John's gotten a little more, even at his early age, a little more sentimental, I guess, with some of his stuff. So Revolver was a big leap. It was one of the biggest leaps for the Beatles, especially Tomorrow Never Dies, or Tomorrow Never Knows. Tomorrow Never Knows was kind of considered as the kickoff for the psychedelic era, I guess.
Okay.
A lot of bands heard that and they're like, wow, this is, we want to do something like this. So that's when you started getting into your little more psychedelic sort of music.
Yeah.
Is that. So that's the last song that's on this album. So we're talking about Revolver. Yeah. And this cover was done by a friend of the Beatles. It was a friend of theirs in Germany, Klaus Forman. And he did this cover, and this was like a huge deal for this cover. Typical of the Beatles covers, just the Beatles,
Yeah.
But they had this friend of theirs, do it, and this was a really huge thing for this cover. It got a lot of recognition and praise, and it was like automatically this is a huge step for
So the
Beatles.
first cover that was more artwork than just photo, maybe? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Rubber Soul was kind of the first because of the way it had the warp to it.
Okay.
But that was an accident. Oh. The guy who took the pictures left the film and it was laid at a goofy angle, so it kind of warped. Okay. And they looked at it and said, we like that one when they looked at the picture, so they used that. So it was kind of first. Okay. But this was a more major change here, having the hand-drawn art and then the real eyes inserted and stuff. So that was a lot of different aspects that went into this cover. So it was a lot more artsy and kind of, out there. So what we'll do, I think, is we'll kind of go over the songs. Let's go over the songs track by track.
Okay.
And then you kind of tell me anything that sticks out to you, and I'll kind of do the same. I'll tell you what I like most about it and why I like that in particular song or whatever. Yeah. Okay. And I took some notes so I don't forget because I forget things easily. I have a brain thing. Okay. See what I mean? All right, so we'll let you start because you're obviously more professional than I am at this.
I don't know, but... All right, so Taxman, was this their first political song?
Yeah, they were being, in England you're taxed for everything. You're like way overtaxed. So they would come to the realization that they're losing most of their money to the Queen. That's all going. So they would be interviewed and people say, I guess you're a millionaire by now, aren't you? Well, Queen is, and stuff like that. So this was George's. George wrote this, and it was his way to, his first, kind of,
So do you think, with there was so much going on politically in the 60s. Are you surprised that they didn't have more political songs about a variety of things that were going on at that time?
In a way, but they were kind of... around this time, before this, they had their first real kind of political thing. John had done an interview a year before in a British paper, and he had made a comment, and I don't remember the exact quote of the entire comment, but he had made a comment in there that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. And he meant that in a way of the way kids act about the Beatles. It seems that the Beatles their popularity was is greater than Jesus, and he didn't mean that they were better than Jesus,
but it came
or greater
across,
than Jesus.
came across.
So an American
poorly.
reporter found that interview, and they don't always quote, and so he kind of sub-quoted, and that was the line that stood out to everybody in America was John Lennon says the Beatles are more popular than Jesus.
Yeah.
So we had the record burnings. So the radio stations would do record burnings. You bring all your Beatles records and memorabilia down there, burn it, and there was boycotting the concerts, and the Beatles must go, and throw them out of the U.S., and there was all this that went on.
Okay.
And John went and made an apology. He said, it's not what I meant. What I said was, it's not. I didn't mean that we were more popular than the Beatles. It just seemed like the kids we were more. It was an observation, kind of the kids we were more popular than the Beatles, and that was enough for it to blow over.
Okay.
And then Paul always says it was great because they went back out, all those records they destroyed, they bought them all again. So,
so it worked out for them?
Looking back on it,
Okay. Okay. I felt like the guitar solo sounds on this song, like the guitar solo, in this song sounds more ambitious than in older albums, which is just cool to see, progress. I just think about myself as a musician and maybe where I am today as opposed to years ago. Right. And so I did notice that the guitar solo was just a little bit more involved in a good way. Okay.
George was always writing songs and that, but they always looked at his stuff as B-sides or, he was not, nobody considered George as a formidable writer. I mean, when you're up against Lennon and McCartney,
yeah,
and a lot of the stuff that they did, then a lot of the stuff that Paul does is kind of, or George did was kind of, And this is one of the albums where he shines and he really shows, especially opening with his song. Okay. We open with George Harrison's song.
Okay.
And Taxman is a big, bold statement, and it does have a lot to it. Yeah, and this album was a very kind of heavy musically compared to the other albums.
Yeah.
It was, so
it is a good song to start off an album, I think. Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
So Eleanor Rigby, so very heavy on strings, violin and cello. Is this the first song that was told like a true story, you think? I'm trying to think of some of the previous albums where you have a character and you're really talking about this character and what they're doing and where they're going and how they're feeling.
I think so. I think this is the major one where we have a central characters and we're kind of laying out like a play.
So that's what I thought. I'm sure I make mistakes because I'm listening to all of this for the first time. But when I was taking notes on this, I think maybe this is the first song told like a story,
pretty much,
with a character.
And Eleanor Rigby, so stories vary if she is real. But stories vary if Paul wrote the song about her or not. So there's a cemetery in Liverpool which bears a headstone, Eleanor Rigby.
Okay.
So everybody says it, and Paul says, well, I might have seen that, and maybe it came up later on in a memory, and I kind of used the name, but it's not directly this particular person.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So not much else I noticed about the song. Just moderate tempo, but those were the only notes I took on it, was just noticing the heavy strings and the story.
Okay. So I'm Only Sleeping's the first one. I made some notes so I wouldn't forget things.
Okay.
So the guitar is played backwards on that.
What do you mean?
So they reversed the tape so that the guitar sounds like it's being played backwards on some of the parts of the song. It's got kind of a dreamy... Yeah. Because I'm only sleeping, and it's talking about being kind of really tired and.
Are you saying they
in a dream state?
Played the guitar, like he recorded the guitar part and then they played it backwards?
Yeah, well, so in the '60s they used tape. To record on. So Tomorrow Never Knows. John was really big. That was his song. He was really big on that. So he took home what is called an acid tape after they recorded it. Acid tape is a copy of the music that you did, but it's very fragile. It's not meant to last. It's just for artists to take home, listen to, and say, I want to change this or I want to change that, and save on time in the studio. So not knowing a lot about these tapes, when John put it on, he put it on backwards. So
it was an accident?
Yeah, it was an accident. So it started playing backwards.
Okay.
So when he heard that, and heard the guitars playing backwards, he fell in love with it. So he
Wow.
came into the studio and was like, hey,
Okay.
here's what I want to. And so he
Yeah.
incorporated that on a couple of
Okay.
different songs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Little trick with the tape.
Yeah.
Things that nowadays, and everything's all electronic, so they go in, I want it to sound like this, and then just punch
Sure.
a bunch of keys. And
Yeah.
but the Beatles had to be really inventive about
Yeah.
what they did when get the sound. They had sounds in their head. I said they didn't read music, and so all their songs were in their head, and they were trying to get what they heard in their head into the studio on tape because they couldn't write it and say, well, this is what I'm.
So, just to clarify, so you're saying none of them could read music?
Right.
It's so interesting to me. Especially with all of the mixed meter they use.
Mhm.
And so, I just think that's a little bit fascinating.
They learned as they went on.
Yeah.
Because, obviously they learned, and George would teach them, but yeah, the Beatles, they started out, they couldn't read music.
Okay.
So the song, that was one of their things where they're talking to George Martin saying, this is what we want.
Yeah.
John would say, this is what I want. And he'd be like, I like this, and he couldn't just like put it down on
Yeah.
paper and stuff.
Okay. They
So
had to
they
describe
try
what
to
they
work
wanted
it
and
out,
work.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So, I'm Only Sleeping didn't make a huge impression on me. I just put it has an easygoing feel, kind of that dreamy feel.
Mm-hmm.
But I really didn't have any lengthy notes on it, actually.
Okay. All right. What'd you think? Love You Too.
So, I put sitar. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
No drum kit. Percussion. I put, Indian percussion, Indian drums, question mark. It's very chant-like.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered, did fans like this?
They did like it.
They did,
This is
or
a
they
huge.
didn't?
They
They
did.
didn't.
This is a huge album in the Beatle world.
Uh-huh.
Revolver is like start with Rubber Soul, and then we get into the really huge albums because of the difference. I mean, and they were able to. That's why their music's so different. After Rubber Soul, it was like that wasn't the same Beatle record anymore.
But it's so, this song is so different. The style is so different. It's not just your average band that is kind of experimenting a little bit or breaking some barriers. I feel like they have a lot of songs that seem traditional, that what your ears expect to hear. Even they're evolving but some of these songs, like this one, I just felt like, wow, I'm so curious. Did fans just immediately embrace it, or did they embrace it later? Because what it reminded me of is Stravinsky. So Igor Stravinsky is a Russian composer.
Okay.
And he wrote a piece called The Rite of Spring. And it debuted in 1913. And so it was a ballet and an orchestral work. And it caused a riot at the premiere from the fans. It was so different than your traditional classical music. The types of chords that they put together, which we'll talk about in a later song on this album. But the chords Stravinsky used, and even the ballet choreography was different. Just more primal, more not just you're sitting there listening to this beautiful, Mozart symphony or something like that. But now it is one of the most well thought of pieces in orchestral
music.
In orchestral music. And so it just reminded me of that, how sometimes, and maybe, it sounds like you're saying fans embraced this song immediately, but I wondered if they embraced it later. Maybe not,
Most of what the Beatles did was pretty well embraced by the fans. The time when things got a little is more in '67 when we started with like Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
Because they came out in long hair and mustaches, and that's not what all these. Their fan base is obviously mostly girls, but they're coming out and they're not clean shaven and stuff anymore. They got these mustaches and beards and even longer hair, and that was kind of the big whoa. What are they doing?
So that was maybe more upsetting than a song
Right.
that just sounded very untraditional. Is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Interesting.
after Revolver, everybody, the fans pretty much embraced what the Beatles did.
Okay.
You get, in the '67 there for those two albums, it was a little But yeah, a little bit of
Okay.
shocker for some fans,
Yeah.
I think. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Here, There, and Everywhere is just such a sweet melody. It's so pretty. They have just a handful of songs, and this is one of them that I would say is just such a sweet song.
That is considered by most people as the perfect song.
Really?
Yeah. Just all the and I don't understand the notes and that kind of stuff. But everybody said the notes all just go together perfectly. That song was just perfectly put together. It was a Paul McCartney song. Even though it says Lennon and McCartney, a lot of stuff is written by one or the other.
Okay.
And that was a Paul song, and that was just they say it's like the perfect love song. It's just perfectly put together.
Yeah, the
way it's
melodies
put
just
together, so.
flow, just beautiful, I
Yeah.
think. So, yeah. That's all I wrote about that one. And
Yeah.
I've heard that one before. I did, create a new column, whether I've heard it or not, because I think that's kind of interesting just for me to look at the spreadsheet and say, wow, I've actually heard most of these songs, or I've only heard 2 of these songs. But so yeah, that's a beautiful one. But the next one, I know it's famous. It just sounds so corny. But I know everybody loves it, so don't hate me, Beatles people, fans. I mean, what do you?
I like it. I love it. I do feel it's a little out of place on this album.
Okay.
But with the other stuff that's on it, it seems a little out of place to me, I admit. But it's a great song. I don't know. You cannot love Yellow Submarine. John and Paul wrote it, and they gave it to Ringo to sing, because Ringo didn't do a lot of writing or a lot of singing, and they wanted Ringo, so they gave him something simple that he could do, and even Ringo at first was like, it's, kind of, kiddie songy thing, but now he talks about it so fondly. This is great, the song and the movie that goes with it, which came out a lot later. It came out in '69.
Okay.
But it's like, my grandkids are up, hey Papa, sing Yellow Submarine, and
I could see, sure, I could see kids liking that song.
This is kind of just a fun little song. It
Yeah.
breaks up, I guess, some of the heaviness of the album as some of the other songs.
I'm not saying that I really dislike it. I'm just saying that if I'm choosing songs to listen to while I'm in my car and I want to listen to Beatles, I'm not choosing that song.
That's okay.
I mean, there's so many amazing songs,
Yeah.
songs that I really, really love. It's just not
one.
not in my top
It's okay.
20.
It don't have to be in everybody's top 20.
Yeah, it's all right.
But,
It's all right.
it's all right.
I get it. Okay.
All right.
The next song I love.
Yeah.
I love this song, and I found that it is stuck in my head, which is a huge compliment to the song. I'm just walking around my house, folding laundry or doing whatever, and this song is in my head. So, what do I like about it? I like the instrumentation. I like how all of the musical parts flow. And I like the dreaminess of it, but it's not so dreamy that I can't connect to anything, I guess. And I love the mixed meter in it. And so let me see if I can talk about that for a second without being able to listen to the song.
Okay. I'm still working on that, by the way.
It's okay. It's a big undertaking to figure out how to play. If anybody out there knows, let us know how can we play the songs without getting in trouble with YouTube. Okay, so just let me think for a second. You've got 4/4 and 3/4. Okay, so you have I'm not just gonna start singing. I'm just trying to think.
You can sing,
I'm curious if Beatles fans who aren't musicians, and maybe you can have some of your viewers comment on this. I'm curious if you guys notice those rhythmic changes not being a musician, or if it's not even a thought. Do you notice when the meter changes? So
what was an example in a fret and word a meter? Because I don't recognize a lot of that myself because I'm not good at music.
I might have a better time explaining mixed meter with Good Day Sunshine.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna, we can come back to She Said, She Said.
Right.
But, so Good Day Sunshine has 4/4, 3/4, and 2/4 in it. And so, the verse is in 4/4, but the chorus is, so if you have good day sunshine, 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3, good day sunshine, 1 2, good day sunshine, 1 2.
Okay.
So when you listen to that song, do you just enjoy it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't pick up on that because I don't know it.
And I understand,
like
that.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the first time I've really talked about music as like musician, non-musician. I mean, music lover for sure, but somebody who hasn't read music and really studied it like that. So Pat and I, all the time, my husband, a drummer, love this kind of thing because we love trying to figure it out. You know, oh, it's this. And when this song is in 4/4, and then you notice right away for us that the chorus is in 3/4, but it's not fully in 3/4. There's a measured 2/4 thrown in there. And I love that. And actually, the more I listen to all these Beatles albums, for just I don't want to call them a traditional rock band. I don't really mean it like that. But just any well-known band, I'm surprised at how much mixed meter they use, which is really neat to me. And I just like figuring that stuff out. And so I don't know if it's just that music nerd part of me that gets hung up on stuff like that because I think it's cool. But those are 2 songs in a row. And looking at my notes, I think these 2 songs are the only 2 songs that have mixed meter on this album, I believe. Okay. And so I just think it's a neat component of their songs. And stuff that I was listening to later on, I'm like, holy moly. There's a couple songs that I haven't even figured out the meter. And I could Google it, but I don't want to Google it. I want to figure it out myself. And so I'll be asking your viewers about some of that later on. But, okay, so love She Said, She Said, love Good Day Sunshine. I really like those songs. Okay. Good Day Sunshine, very piano focused, I noticed. The next 2 songs, I really don't have notes on. I didn't latch on to those songs. Okay. I don't know. You can tell me how you feel about them. Now, I haven't taken the deepest dive into every song and studied all of the lyrics. Right. And sometimes it takes many listens before you really get attached to a song. So, just disclaimer. I'm just saying. But what do you think?
And Your Bird Can Sing. It's just a fun song. There's nothing special about it that I'm aware. It's just a fun song. I like it. It's something that they wrote, and I like it. I think it's a good song. There's one I have a deluxe edition of this album, and it has different versions on there. And there's one on there where they're singing and they like can't stop laughing, and it it's just a fun song. So I think them laughing with it kind of helps the song along. It makes it fun. Yeah. So for an old one is nothing special there either, as far as I know. It's just a song, but I like it. This whole album, I like this whole album. It's just a little bit heavier, a little more. Some of it's a little more serious, I guess, than other stuff. And I don't know. I like those songs. But I like them. I like everything. The only one on here that I'm not crazy about is Dr. Robert.
So is Dr. Robert a drug, or is he supplying?
Dr. Robert was a real physician who used to prescribe a mixture of a couple of different drugs as pick-me-ups to artists and actors. Give them that pep to keep going. And, Okay. So he was kind of famous to the stars kind of guy because he had whatever you needed. Yeah. It's an interesting song. I can't say it's one I'd want to listen to a ton or on repeat. Like some of these I could. I just love them. But it's an interesting song for sure. Yeah, it's good. It's not one of my more favorites on here, though. But yeah. Okay. So just real quick, She Said that song. You could thank Peter Fonda for that song. Do you know? I do. Yeah. So John was at a party and Peter Fonda was there and he's just like wasted out of his mind and he's just sitting in a chair. John said, I walked up to him and said, "Hey, Peter," he goes, "I know what it's like to be dead, man. I know what it's like to be dead."
Really?
And he said, and John remembered and he picked up on that, and that's kind of how what he wrote the song from, yeah. So there's some things that are like that happens, like, really?
Yeah.
That makes you write
Yeah. But as a songwriter myself, it is interesting. That's very feasible to me that would happen. That something just sticks with you, and you think, you know what? That's a song.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write about that. Yeah. So yeah.
As a side note, just because I know the knowledge of it, but
yeah,
that was also the same party so the Monkees, the Monkees are always kind of considered a joke, but I think it's because of the TV show they did, and I think a lot of people didn't take their music serious, and I think the Monkees is a lot better band than they get credit for, but that's also the one where John told them, you guys need to start take up for yourselves. You tell them, I want to write my songs, because the Monkees didn't really write their songs. Other people did. Like Neil Diamond and stuff like that. And they're like, you guys need to start writing your own material and tell these executives, I'm taking control of my career. So John gave them this big pep talk in which they acted on, and the rest of their career didn't go quite as well, But they did go in and start saying, we want to start writing our own stuff, because we don't get to write. We have stuff that we could do and we like to say. Did
they? Not every band or musician can write their own stuff.
Yeah, and
just because the Beatles can doesn't mean that just any band could do what the Beatles.
According to John, he thinks you could, but I guess, but yeah, a lot of the stuff the Monkees did after was kind of after 67, 66, 67 was not their best stuff, and a lot of it they did right, but some of it they did right was good, but I think they were probably better off having ghostwriters.
Having writers, yeah.
All right. I want to tell you.
Okay, so this is the first time I've noticed dissonance in one of their songs, and dissonance is a word used not just in music, but definitely in music for a feeling of just unsettled tension. And so in this song, it's the piano that plays. So if you go to the piano and play two notes that are next door neighbors, that's not going to sound good.
Okay.
And that would be dissonance. That would be an example of dissonance. Okay. And that sounds, if you listen to it, it sounds like that's exactly what they did, is go up to the piano and play two notes. So it's that ba da 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 is the rhythm of that. So I don't know if you can hear that in your head right now, the part that I'm talking about. Yeah. It just, as soon as you hear it, you go, ooh. It just makes you feel like something is not right. So, it's the first song of theirs that I've heard this. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just obvious dissonance. And so, what is that song about? Why do they want that dissonance in there? It's like, just a feeling of like conflict and just not good vibes. So do you remember what that one's about?
I don't think there's anything special about that song.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that song. It's nothing, I don't think it's too far out of the box for me. But
yeah. Well, and I'm not saying that I don't like it because of that. I'm just saying it's definitely something you notice when you listen to it. Okay. I think anybody would notice it, musician or not, even if you don't know how to define it.
All right. I probably have heard it and not really thought much about it though.
Yeah.
So I'll listen for that next time.
Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow Never Knows. What are those sound effects in that song?
You forgot about Got to Get You Into My Life.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay, we'll come back to the weird sound effects in that last song. Sorry. Okay, Got to Get You Into My Life reminds me of the band Chicago. And not just because of the horns.
We talked about that last time.
Yes, the horns, but also the melodic line, the melody. Both of those things remind me of a... Sounds like Chicago to me.
Right.
So, curious what other Beatles fans think of that comment, but that's the first thing I thought of when I listened to it. And that's really... I've heard this song before, and that's really all I wrote about it, but that's what it reminds me of.
Paul had a lot of ambitions for the brass,
yeah.
For that song, and he kept telling the musicians a higher pitch. And I remember a couple of musicians saying, just like, a higher pitch, and we want it done this way. And he's like, and it's like, da-da-da. And we're like, this is not language we understand, and we're trying, you know.
Yeah, okay.
And this is, I think I told you before, this song is about pot. So this is the Beatles.
Oh yeah,
pot
that's
song.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's not a person. That's right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. Didn't mean to skip that one.
No, that's all right.
So yeah, the last one, just strange sound effects that I can't tell what instrument is making them.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of different things going on in that song. It's one of those where sometimes the Beatles would go in and they'd hear somebody in another studio using an instrument, but they didn't know what it was. Like, ooh, I like the sound of that. Can we borrow it?
Mm-hmm.
And then they would take it over, and George would say, well, it's da-da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, I just like the sound of it.
Yeah.
And they would play it, and they would incorporate it into a song because they liked
Because they weren't using,
sound.
like...
They would do stuff like stuffed pillows and the Ringo drum set to get a different sound. And
yeah, because they weren't using, you know, like now you can go to a keyboard and have 100 sounds.
Right.
But they didn't have that then.
No.
So, yeah, I'm curious what that is, if you know.
Yeah, I don't know if exactly what all that is,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of different... Because I'm not a musical guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't study it for the music itself. Just the whole thing together. It's just, I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll listen... When I listen... Usually, if I listen to an album, it's the first time I listen to it, I'll listen to it the first time just overall.
Yeah.
To see how I feel about it. Then the next time I kind of pick out, like I'll listen to just the vocal parts.
Okay.
And say, you know... And then next time I'll listen to just the guitar parts and kind of break it down that way. And see, it's just the way I listen to music for some reason. Then it's the overall, but in the end, it's the overall thing of how I feel about it. Yeah. And there's just like stuff, like there are certain things in Beatles songs, it's like, was that supposed to be there? And I've tried to look it up before and there's no answer for it, you know.
I would be curious, I know we can't do it on your... on your podcast, but I'd be curious for you later to play an example when you say it's not supposed to be there, or when you asked me about chords that aren't a real chord, but they kind of made it a real chord. To understand really what you mean, I'd like for you to sometime, not now, show me an example of that, see if we can talk about that.
Okay, yeah, there's just I'll have to. There's just things that are like said or. It's like that's supposed to be in there, or they just we're just gonna leave it in there. We don't want to cut it out. You know, do you plan to have a random word tossed in there, or you know, or do you just?
My gut feeling is it's intentional.
Think so?
Well, I mean, I don't think they'd leave anything in there they didn't want in there. I don't think they would say, well, it's too much work to take it out. That's just my opinion. Now, I think there's like Taylor Swift stuff, for example. She's laughing sometimes at the end of a song or something like that, and I don't think they necessarily planned for her to do that, but I do think they said, we love that, we want to keep it. But I don't know that any recording artist would say, well, I don't really want it, but I'll leave it.
Okay.
That's, again, just my own 2 cents worth.
So overall, Revolver, what do you...
Overall, okay. It is not my favorite album. Just because... You know, songs that I would want to hear on repeat would be Here, There, and Everywhere, She Said, Good Day, Sunshine. And that might be it.
Really?
Doesn't mean I don't like the other ones. You have to understand
No,
that.
I understand.
I mean, I really like Taxman, actually. And the other thing is, as a disclaimer that I want to say to your viewers is... I can't tell you the number of times I've listened to an album and it may be the 5th listen and I attached to a song that just didn't grab me the first time through. And I've only listened to all of these songs once, maybe twice. Not the ones that I knew before doing this project with you, of course. But all of these songs that I've never heard before, I'm judging things off of just one listen, maybe 2. Okay. And so it's really not, I mean, it's really not fair for me to be judgmental in this way because I haven't had a bunch of listens to each song. But just after the first listen, I would say...
That's your short list. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what my favorite album would be. I don't know if I could answer that yet. Okay. It'll be I'll get back to you.
I like that you never really... knew a lot of Beatles songs and weren't didn't have much of an opinion about it. And now that you're listening to them, you're starting to. I feel like they're growing on you more, maybe.
Oh, for sure.
And you're really realizing that the music is.
Well,
you know.
I have to say, when I think of the Beatles, I know all the Beatles songs that your average person knows. And when I think of the Beatles, I think of either the earlier stuff or Sgt. Pepper, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which are two songs that I knew for sure before doing this project with you. And so I would say I'm very impressed with the intricacy of a lot of their songs, and that goes to the mixed meter, or then if you get into pitches and scales, which we're not going to take a deep dive into, but a lot of their songs are major, some songs are minor, but then you get into modes. So she said it feels major, but not fully, and I did look it up because I'm like, what is this? And so the internet says it's B-flat mixolydian, which is a mode, and it's just a whole nother level of music.
Means nothing to me, but okay.
I understand. It's challenging for me too, and I even studied it, but it's just not a major or minor scale. Right. It's a combination of notes that does not fit into the definition of a major scale or a minor scale. That's all we need to say about it for now. But I think I was just pleasantly surprised at just how much variety they had, and they tried so many different things, and so I think that was a pleasant surprise. Yeah.
I think the Beatles got to, and this is also a point where they stopped touring, because they finally got, their last one was at Shea Stadium in '65. They got to the point to where, we're just messing up. Our voice is way off. Nobody knows because they're screaming so loud. They just want to see us. They don't care. And John said, sometimes just people and not really playing anything.
That's sad.
And nobody's paying any attention because they're too busy screaming.
They're so the band was so loved, but it's a shame that. It's kind of like today how everybody has cell phones and is recording concerts. And I think there are some performers who are like, can you just be in the moment with me? Right, and can we connect instead of being on stage and looking out and just seeing phones? Right. I mean, that's got to be hard for them. Yeah. So I think that's today's version of that a little bit. And they're saying, it doesn't matter. That has to be disappointing for them.
Okay. And upside of that is they have more time to do stuff like this album, because you have a lot more instrumental type music. You got the brass things and all these other instruments that they never put on songs before. Yeah. Or some songs are like they don't even violin and.
Some of these songs are full orchestrated songs for sure.
Yeah, you don't even have Ringo's not even in there because he's not needed.
So are you saying that they just gave up with touring and just spent time writing music in the studio?
Right.
Okay.
They finally got to where they said, "You show us what you got. What do you got?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?" And they would come in with all these different ideas and say, "This is what we want to try to do." But that took time. Whereas these more simpler songs from earlier,
100%,
3-minute songs,
absolutely.
Not that at all bad songs, but. They were just simple songs compared to what they're doing now.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've always wondered, what if they weren't so restrained from the start? Because they've always had these kind of ideals. The Beatles always wanted to do more than they were doing.
What could they have created
what if in 63 or 64 they came up with some of this stuff that they were doing? Yeah. Imagine how music would have evolved
earlier in that way.
And you can say what you want, but there's not one single artist I've ever heard say, "I've not been influenced by the Beatles." Their music influenced me in ways that no other music did. And it's just one of them flukes of the universe, I guess. These four guys, it's just like a perfect pairing of, it's weird.
Yeah.
So, well, good. I'm glad.
So there you have it.
I thought you'd like Revolver a little bit more, but that's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm not saying I like it.
A lot of more interesting stuff,
Yeah.
But okay, that's fine. Your opinion, honest opinion is what I want, so it works out good.
Okay.
All right, sweet. Well, that's it for Revolver.
All right.
So I figure we're going to probably get to where it's probably one album per thing.
Because there's so much more to talk about. Okay.
Yeah, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to bore nobody to sleep with me.
Okay.
You can keep them going for hours because you're interested. All right, so we'll cut this one off and do another one.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks for tuning in. So if you like this, thumbs up. Subscribe. I love getting new subscribers, and leave comments. I love replying to comments. So for that one guy, it just sticks in my craw, that one guy, but whatever. He made a point, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you like this video. I hope you like my videos going forward. And watch any of my past ones. I hope you like those too. Some good ones that splattered in there, here and there. And that's it. Other than that, sprinkle a little love out there in the world. I always tell people there's not enough love in the world.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of mean things going on.
That's right.
So I'm just trying to promote love. That's what John would do.
I love that.
And yeah, if you have any time today to do a special thing for somebody, you know, buy them a meal or give them $1, whatever they need, just something. You never know what somebody's going through, and just that little bit of that to you could be a huge thing to someone
Give them
else.
a Beatles t-shirt.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be
This
cool.
is my new shirt from Jack. Yeah.
All right. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back with another one. Thank you again for taking time. I know you're busy.
Anytime.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
Never too
Especially
busy
coming
for
all the
you.
way over here to my fancy studio.
Love it.
And doing it. So
I love it.
That's awesome. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.